Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates the fact that Celtic are fans all over this great big planet. From Dublin to Dubai, Easter House to Easter Island, wherever you happen to be watching from, you're very much part of A Celtic World. And I'm going to say a quick hello to our regular faces, David, Brian and Innes, as I jump over to our special guests who are going to unmute their microphones in readiness to reply to me saying, hello, Peter and Cormac, how you doing?
How you doing, Gavin?
How are you doing, Gavin? Thanks for having us on.
All very well here. Delighted to have you. You two boys are representing the Celtic Fan Collective. And there's 6 of us here today because we're all very keen to chat to you as remote fans to find out, what's going on with the boots on the ground. So hello to everyone in the chat. It's a parole panel, says somebody. It's quite good. Hello to everyone. Hail, hail. Morning, troops. Like I say, let us know if anyone's microphone needs turning up or turning down. Otherwise, we're going to get cracking and get chatting about all things Celtic Fan Collective. A quick word from David. Hello, David.
Hello, Gav. Disliking this international break almost as much as the board bye.
Okay, short and sweet. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Gav.
Hello, Innes.
Hi, Gav. Good to be back on again. Good to see you two guys too.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get started. First of all, I'll say, Peter, you were introduced to us as Peter Kelly from Kerrydale Street. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. Well, for those that use Kerrydale Street or those that don't, it's a message board, so therefore it has a worldwide audience by the very nature of it. So folk on there who do use it might know me as Pedro K on Kerrydale Street. I've been a member of Kerrydale Street for over 20 years, and I'm one of the moderators, and I was the individual who got back to the original letter, the signed Celtic supporters letter, asking for Kerrydale Street to be added to that list of signatories, and I attended the meeting. It was in Gracie's on, I think it was the 10th of September, where I put myself forward for the steering group, and fortunately I'm part of the steering group. So yeah, I mean, I was just looking actually at just over a month ago, it was the 50th anniversary of my first ever Celtic game. So yeah, I'm as old as that. So as I say, I'm now in Edinburgh, but originally I'm from Lanarkshire. So Celtic was just a couple of stops along in the train from Blantyre to Dalmarnock, and so yeah, I've been a Celtic fan as everybody else has been probably all my life. So
very good. I just noticed here on Kerrydale Street it says 8 million posts. That's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, not all from me, I must say. But yeah, I mean, I think we've got something like 24,000 signed members, but obviously that's folk who over the length of Kerrydale Street are signed up to. But I think we get something like over around 1,500 actual individual posts a day. So it's a pretty well used message board, and it's part of the way that the collective have set themselves up to engage with as many fans, groups and organisations as possible. And again, I'm sure we'll come on to this later on about how we're doing that. So yeah, I think Kerrydale Street's a good example of the way fans now engage with each other and with the club and what have you. So yeah, Good to be here.
All right. Well, great to have you. Also great to have Cormac here. Jerry Smith saying hail, hail. Cormac runs a great CSC bus with the other lads, been on it a few times. Cormac, tell us about the CSC.
Yeah, Jerry just stole everything I was going to say there. So yeah, I'm on the committee of the Celtic Supporters Club in Dublin, and we've been going since 1987, as you're very helpfully just putting up there as well. Yeah, we run buses to nearly every home game, and yeah, we've been on the go. It'll be 40 years. Time goes by quickly. I haven't been travelling on the bus all that time. I started as a fresh-faced 17-year-old. I started heading over to Glasgow myself in the 90s, and now as a slightly less fresh-faced 44-year-old, I'm still traveling over on the bus, and it's a brilliant experience. But we've always, the Naomh Pádraig has always been involved in any sort of fan activism that does crop up in the world of Celtic, going back to the removal of the old board and different issues that have come up since then. Bernard Higgins and Fans Against Criminalisation. We've always been happy to row in and put our name to these things. I attended the meeting in Graces. I wasn't in Graces in person, but I was there online, and like Peter, I was very happy to sort of put my hand up and volunteer to get involved with the steering committee. So that's I suppose that's what has me here today, just to give you the brief overview. The club itself, there's nearly 300 members in Naomh Pádraig, so we're still going strong, I'm glad to say. And that's, as I said, that's who I'm there representing as well. But that's it. I won't waffle on too long.
Okay, well, we were talking to Geneva CSE not long ago, and Nick from Geneva CSE used to be part of yours. I don't know if you know Nick personally.
And I've over the years I've met so many people. I might know his face. Me and Peter were just exchanging messages yesterday about someone he mentioned to me, and I had that awkward. Oh God, I probably know them. Probably crossed paths.
At least you're not being asked in a public setting where there's anyone watching, so
geez,
that's okay.
Yeah, no, keep that between us.
All right, here we go. Watching the Collective now, music fans. What's that a reference to? Who wants to jump in there? I suspect Brian does.
Well, it's either the Thompson twins or Elvis Costello, is it? No.
It's Elvis Costello for sure. The song being
We Are Detectives, is it? No.
No, you're mixing up the two of them. Yeah.
I was never
Elvis Costello's watching the Detectives, but the Thompson twins were We Are Detectives. Right. That's where you're getting confused there.
Never a fan. Elvis Costello, a bit middle of the road for me. Yeah.
Do you know his real name, anyone?
Declan McManus.
Oh, that's very good.
Don't really like him, you know.
Declan Patrick McManus is his name, in case you're doubting his credentials in any way. His dad was also a famous singer. This is some stuff I found out while preparing for the show. Do you guys remember R. White's Lemonade advert? Did you get that in Scotland years ago? This famous advert. I know they had it in England. It was a big deal. R. White's Lemonade. I'm a secret lemonade drinker. That was his dad singing it with him on backing vocals as a young fella. But yeah, I think it's an English thing. So nobody knows R. White's Lemonade, no?
I know the lemonade.
Alpine.
I don't know the advert.
We knew Alpine. We used to wait for the Alpine.
Alpine and Bonacord.
Aye.
And we had the main man coming round in the truck. All right, we'll get on to Celtic soon enough then after all this waffle. And listen, we invite questions from the live chat. I've seen some people already jumping in with them, so that's great. All right, so where do we start with this? Well, let me introduce it by saying, despite the board being keen to sort of paint a picture that the Fans Collective doesn't represent all fans, tell us a bit about the collective and its efforts to present itself as a broad base. Can you do that? Let's go to Peter first with that.
Well, I think as we mentioned earlier on, it was looking from the letter that was signed originally on, I think it was early September, the 6th of September or whatever, from a group of fans, and then other organisations get involved and asked to become signatories to that. That led to the meeting in Graces on the 10th of September, which was both in person and, as Cormac mentioned, online. And it gave us a view, an overview of the wide range of organisations who had got to the same sort of conclusion that how Celtic were being run was just not good enough. And so it was a case of where do we go from here and how do we take it forward? That led to the setting up of the steering group, which is something that I think Cormac might correct me if I'm wrong, but about 22, 23 members. And the thing to remember about the steering group is we're just starting this. This is a long journey, and we're just starting this journey. And I think that the steering group and the collective is intended to be an organic structure, so that it will change and it will adapt as we go. So that you might be thinking a 22 steering group is quite large, and it probably is. So as time goes on, we'll be looking at how we can adapt and change, maybe reduce that. But we've certainly set up working groups where we would co-opt people in, look at strengths and skills that people can bring to it. So as I say, it's an adaptive, it's an organic structure, and it's something that we're really wanting to engage with fans worldwide with, never mind just in Scotland or in England or in Ireland. So as I said earlier on, it's great to talk to you guys and get your feedback as well. It's a two-way conversation that we're looking for here. What can you offer? What can you bring? And when I say you, I don't mean this podcast, but everybody and individuals across who are Celtic supporters. Because at the end of the day, we all look for the same thing. We all want the same thing, and that's Celtic to be as good as it possibly can be.
On that note, are you reaching out continually to bring more and more CSEs on board?
Well, that's the plan. I mean, as this week goes on, and we've got a steering group meeting tomorrow night. Again, I think some of them are going to be in person, some of them are going to hopefully call in and via video. But one of the things I would be looking to ask is, how do we engage with fans worldwide, and how do we do that? As I said earlier, we are very much at the beginning of this process. We're learning as well, and Cormac's probably like myself. We've never been involved in this scale of campaigning before, so I'll be up front and say I'm sure we will make mistakes, but as long as we learn from the mistakes and as long as we engage with people and folk are quite constructive in how they speak to us, we will be happy to engage with any and take forward any ideas that are sent to us or spoke to us about, because as I say, it's an organic thing, it's an adaptive thing.
Yeah. Okay, Innes, you have a question. Sorry, go ahead, Cormac.
Yeah, no, sorry for jumping in. I was just to add as well. I suppose there is no magic wand to wave in terms of reaching out or growing beyond. All we can do is keep. It's a long road now, and all we can do is keep trying to get our message out there. And some people it takes a bit longer to get on board than others, so we just have to keep from here on, just keep plugging away. And it's through, I suppose, even getting the message out on podcasts like yourself and others, and also through various media, just continually reaching out. But it's up to each individual and each club, each organisation when they're ready to join us. But unfortunately, there's no sort of quick snap the fingers solution to building this. It's a long slog from here, and we just have to keep believing in ourselves and keep going. So yeah, there's no quick easy solution to reaching out to people, but we just have to keep plugging away. And I suppose with the steering group, as Peter touched on, it is quite a large number, but we're all volunteers. So I suppose by necessity there's attrition, there's people only have limited resources of time and energy. So by virtue of that, by having a slightly larger number, it allows for people to be able to give what they can, and also it allows for the greatest flat level democracy, in the sense of bringing the maximum of people with us that we can, rather than people feeling excluded in any way. That it's maybe a slightly more cumbersome discussion, but that all the people in the group do have their voices heard. And there's people in the group who represent thousands. As I said, my supporters club numbers several hundred, but between the 23 or 24 of us, there's thousands upon thousands of Celtic supporters represented in there. And so it's important, I suppose, that people do feel their voices are being represented in there. So in terms of the makeup of the steering group, it might be a slightly big number, but there's benefits to that as well.
Well, that does touch on a question then that Innes wanted to ask.
Okay. How do the collective or the steering group plan to maintain momentum whilst keeping the whole body united, avoiding potential splits? After all, there's strength and unity.
I don't know. Cormac,
Sorry
wants to
to
pick up on that.
Yeah, sorry to. I'm very conscious of not just jumping in across each other. So, yeah, I suppose it does follow on from what I was saying there. The importance of being able to have those quite frank discussions at times, but that almost over time, as we get to know each other better as well, there's that bit of respect and trust there where we're able to talk to each other and tease things out to bring people along, so that people don't feel they're being roughshod over, but that there is some sort of a consensus achieved before we arrive at decisions, because when you're trying to keep a large group of people together, it's a massive challenge in any type of activism or any type of program.
I think we were from the very start. We've always been aware that not everyone, Celtic fans are. We always have a right idea of how many numbers it is in the world, hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever it be. We'll all have different ideas and we'll all think differently. And we've always, from the start, we're aware that people might not always agree with us and what we do, and they're perfectly entitled to have those views and those opinions. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the steering group's there to make decisions. And we do have frank and honest exchanges privately as well as the discussions we have. So, but ultimately we're there to make a decision, and as always, fans will let us know if they think we're doing it well or we're not doing it well. And as I said earlier, we'll learn from any mistakes as well that we make. So it is difficult, and it will be difficult to keep a consistent message across. But it's up to yourselves. This is. One thing, we're the club, it's our club, and we're the fans here. We will be the ones that live or die by this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also,
can I just ask?
Yeah. Sorry, Gav.
Right.
Also, that recognition that no one of us is ever going to agree with everything all the time. So it's kind of just that bit of self reflection as well of. You might say your piece, but the broader consensus might go in a different direction. And just, there will be times when, whether it's actions or stances taken, where you might not chime in exactly with that, but then you're respecting the broader consensus as well.
Okay. Can you define what the steering group is, just for people who hear that term and maybe don't know exactly what it is? Cormac, can you define that for us?
That's it's I suppose it's the group which is endeavoring to get the collective progressing off the ground, to maybe keep the momentum going in between the larger meetings. When all the 420 plus organizations and groups and supporters bodies can come together. So it's that smaller number of us who have put our hands up and willing to devote the energy and give it the thought process and trying to navigate from day to day the outworkings of this process. Apart from kind of Googling a definition of a steering group, I suppose that's the.
Well, we have one here from Monty.
All right,
which isn't very helpful. A number of female learner drivers who've yet to master the art. Don't quite think that's what it is. Peter, do you have anything to add to that definition?
No, I mean, I think that's the idea of the steering group. I mean, the makeup of the steering group, as I say, is 22, 23 individuals made up of organisations such as the affiliation of the Celtic Supporters Club, the association, individual Celtic Supporters Clubs such as St Patrick, podcasters, and social media organisations. So it's trying to get that wide experience, range, skill set that we can all bring something different, yet aiming for the same goal or the same outcome. So as Cormac said, it's trying to keep the momentum going. It's a body that's trying to just keep us going along and keeping the campaign going. And add to that, there are a number of subgroups as well. So there's a communication subgroup, a business governance subgroup. There's a match day protest subgroup. So it's more than just the steering group. There are other people contributing and doing their part here as well.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to David now. He's got a couple of questions about the meeting. David, to avoid any crosstalk, can you direct your questions to either Peter or Cormac?
First question to Peter then, and thanks for coming on the show, gents. Very much appreciated. It's hugely helpful. Pleased with what I'm hearing about the way in which you're developing this. I wanted to get behind the meeting itself a little bit for those of us who aren't there necessarily in person, to get a sense of what actually went down. Now, we've seen the minutes, we're involved in some of the chat groups, etc., and we've heard about the Nicholson shrug. So we're aware of those things, right? So information comes to us and we try and sort of read the tea leaves. But what I was after, Peter, is can you give us a sense of, in the meeting itself, what was behind the minutes that we read? What was the sentiment? How were you treated? What did you feel the sentiment of them were? You don't have to be disparaging about them, but I really want a sense for those who couldn't attend, what it was like.
Thanks, David. Well, up front and straight away, I should say that I wasn't at the meeting either, and neither was Cormac, but I think the two of us can offer a good flavour of what, just from the private discussions that we've had with those that did attend, plus the feedback that we've all probably seen, including the minutes. So, to be honest, the meeting request came from Celtic, and it was a bit of a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting that. Now, I don't know if that request came on the back of the protests that had taken place at Kilmarnock when there was a delayed entry by a number of fans, the posters that were held up at Firhill against Partick Thistle, or the fact that a number of people had removed themselves from the home ticket scheme, which saw an attendance at the Braga game that would have been down from what they maybe had hoped and imagined it would be. So I don't know what the catalyst for that request for a meeting was, but I think we all welcomed the meeting. It gave us an opportunity to hear what Celtic have to say. So certainly in the conversations that we had as a steering group beforehand, we were all pretty keen to accept the invite, pretty keen to make it a professional meeting. We certainly don't want to go down the personalisation of anything here. That's not what we were about, and we don't want to be seen as that. So going to the meeting, I think those that were going, they'd met just beforehand. So the meeting, I think, was 6 o'clock last Monday night. They had actually met just maybe about an hour beforehand just to get a pre-meeting discussion going, who would lead and just do the sort of the basic admin sort of stuff about how you attend a meeting. Again, there was a 21 representatives from the various fans organisations, and I think we have to acknowledge that some of the organisations gave up a place because the collective itself wasn't originally invited. So they gave up some of their places to allow collective steering group members to attend. So I think everybody went in with the expectation, a wee bit of excitement about what Celtic were about to offer and what they were about to say. Now, I don't think anybody went in there expecting to hear that Michael Nicholson was going to resign or Peter Lawwell was going to step down or anything like that. It wasn't about that, and I don't think from our side we went in demanding that Nicholson resigns or Lawwell resigns. So I think there was a hope that something positive would come out of this. From what I've heard, that they were treated very well. Celtic were quite, they were, as you would expect, whatever you think of Nicholson and the board, they're professional people, and they are serious people. It's not in their interest to be denigrating or anything or look down on the fans at that meeting. So, I think they were treated very well, and they were treated, professionally. but by the end of the meeting, I think probably halfway through the meeting, the collective or the fans representatives felt that this was going nowhere. They were asking questions that weren't getting answers. You may have heard some debate about the fact that there wasn't anybody for the football side attending as well on the Celtic side. Nobody from the actual football side. Now, whether you think that somebody should have been there or not, but it was just interesting that they didn't even bring someone along. So I think the sort of overall feeling was that this was a bit of a waste of time. You'll have read the minutes. I think the highlights include, Celtic feel that 19 seasons out of 20 competing in Europe is a success, which I think it would be. Celtic and Scottish football, it's harder not to compete in Europe. So I don't see that as a success. And then you sort of try and ask yourself, what does competing mean? Is it just being there? Or is it actually being competitive? So that sort of race, I think that puts some heckles up straight away. Then you get to the question, the sort of headline that came from it, that Michael shrugged his shoulders, when asked, were some signings, why would the manager claim that some signings are club signings? I think it now is sort of public knowledge that the original minutes, because it was agreed that there would be joint minutes issued. So between the Monday and the Thursday when they were issued, there had been a bit of going back and forward between the steering group and the club around the draft minutes. And I think the original comment said that when Michael was asked that question, he said he didn't know. And the club wanted that removed and replaced with he shrugged his shoulders. So that in itself might tell you the sort of the attitude that the club have. So I think from a meeting point of view, it was a professional. It was respected. They sat at a large round table. There was it wasn't like an audience type participation where the board sat at the top and the fans representatives sat in a sort of auditorium type where they would just put their hands up to, it was a proper meeting. But at the end of it, I don't think it came to anything. I think that was the biggest disappointment, that there was a few that something would be offered. There was lots of easy wins there for the club had they just went down the right road, and they just seem to have missed those wins. And I think that was the biggest disappointment, that there was just nothing there that anybody could go back and say the board are listening. I don't know if that sort of gives you a flavour there, David, or answers any.
It's wonderful, Peter. It really brings a lot of colour to things. You sit at a distance and you try and imagine how this is there, and you read as much as you can. So I think it's fabulous. And again, thanks for the work that you guys are doing to actually be able to communicate this. There was something about on the night. This is my other question, if it's okay. And Cormac, I'm gonna ask you. I'm not sure if I picked this up properly, but it seemed to be in the written word that we heard about this meeting that the Celtic representatives were dismissive of those who were there. And the suggestion was that, what is it that you actually want here? What do you think we're not doing very well? And that really irked me, because we knew that the letter had been sent. We as fans had read that, not being part of it, understood what the questions were that were presented. So what I wanted to know was, one, did that come across to you? Have I picked this up incorrectly? And if not, what will the collective do to make sure we hold their feet to the fire in terms of, this is exactly what it is that we are expecting of you? If you don't mind, Cormac, there's a lot in there.
So I suppose, there's take the first part first. There was that feeling, as Peter mentioned, expectations were pretty low as to what to come from the meeting. There was that bit of anticipation of, it'll be interesting to see what way the board are approaching this, but expectations were very, very low. But they still succeeded in lowballing those expectations. It was there was an air of just being flabbergasted, really. Like they came with zero substance. Their answers were not really grounded in reality. They did give, when they gave an answer, when they didn't just say that they wouldn't discuss something based on confidentiality or not prejudicing the operations. When they did give an answer, that they just weren't really grounded in reality. They don't stand up to scrutiny. If you look at whether it's corporate governance, the European record, or player recruitment, for example, or the youth system, it just doesn't stand up to scrutiny. So there was just a sense of being completely flabbergasted coming out of it, that it was just that bad. So then, in terms of where to move from there, we have, as Peter mentioned earlier, we are having the open meeting again for all the 420 plus signatories. That's due this Thursday, the 16th, in Graces, and then there's also the online access option. So look, the steering group is we're only representative of the broader collective. So we are open to suggestions, and we welcome any sort of input to be considered of the best way forward from there. So there's protest options, there's actions, there's various options to look at there, and then there's different facets to it. So there's match day protest, or there's sort of wider strategies that can be employed to make the club, we're the club, but to make the board feel a little bit of heat, as you say. But then there's also the bigger picture of sort of shareholdings and strategies around digging into the corporate side of things a bit more. So, as we mentioned earlier with the different steering groups, there's really something there for everyone. If someone feels passionately and feels they have something to offer, there is something there for everyone.
Okay. Well, look, we'll get to the next steps. What's down the line in a second, but just to give Innes a chance to. Okay, you want to jump in there with something, Peter?
Yeah, I noticed some comments coming up there from, I think it was Monty that spoke about the level of tone and the direct approach, and I can get that, but I think in this first meeting, we were, as I said earlier, we were trying to be respectful, and and that's what we will always try to do. I think it depends, how do you define direct approach, and what does that mean? It was never going to be a shouting match. We don't want that, and the board don't want that. So it was always going to be a straight and blunt conversation. But it doesn't do our image any good if we're just going to get in there and start shouting. Because to be honest with you, I think that's what a lot of the board expect. That's how they see us. It's nothing but a mob of football fans, and that's certainly, well, I don't know how me and Cormac are coming across, but that's certainly not how we are, and we wouldn't want to be seen as that. So to go back to the point that Monty was saying, it is trying to keep a respectful level of tone there, but at the same point in getting the message across. And time will tell whether that we're getting that right, and it might be a case that we do have to become a wee bit more direct in time. But at this point in time, as I keep on saying, we've just started. Let's just see how we're going just now. So I don't know if that answers Monty's point. You can let me know in the comments.
Well, we do exist to answer all of Monty's points. That's one of our key objectives every time we go live. Just a quick bit of housekeeping. If someone's got a pen that's a clicky pen, please try not to click it. I think that's what I was hearing a second ago. But I wanted to give Innes a chance to ask his other question, because it came up a moment ago about the manager and the story being leaked to the Sun and all of that. Innes?
Given that Nicholson says that the briefing against the manager to the press is case closed, the fans certainly don't think it's case closed, and we want answers. So do the collective plan to continue pursuing this, and if so, how? I appreciate you might not be able to broadcast it here, but you give us a flavour on that, Peter?
Yeah, well, I think certainly in this that that is as a disappointing reply as for our point of view as you seem to think it is as well. You know, from what it appears is the investigation was just going around various board members asking, was it you? And them saying no. And that seems to be the investigation. Now, if you take away the fact that it went to the Sun newspaper in the first place, and I think we've all got our own views on the Sun, and I think it's just an unacceptable answer. It was at a time where I think there was no doubt it was to undermine Brendan Rodgers, and I think we all sort of know where that quote came from and how it got there. Certainly, I don't think it's an acceptable answer, and it's again something that we're going to hopefully the steering group and the wider collective will look at and how we return to that. To be honest, at this moment in time, I don't think I can give you a definitive answer here, but it certainly is, as far as I'm concerned, it's not dealt with.
That's good. Thanks for that, Peter.
Cormac, do you have anything to add to that, or do you think it's just going to be one of these things that will come out in the fullness of time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sort of jump ahead and speak for the collective without having had a proper discussion about it. But just to echo what Peter said, I mean, it was a kind of a farcical answer to what is a very serious issue. I mean, if there was the bit in the minutes where it said it may not have even been a board member; it could have just been a senior figure. If a senior figure at the club is briefing against the manager, that's a serious issue, and to just palm it off, and it's like that answer. The issue in itself is so serious, but it's just so it sums up, I think, that attitude towards the meeting of just either stonewalling or else just dealing in kind of word soup, vagaries and window dressing, but just palming us off was it sort of sums it up, the overall attitude.
Yeah. There was no investigation.
That's how it looks. Yeah.
You could say that, and I wouldn't want to comment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move that on then with this sort of tweet. No surprise, the meeting with two men in the crosshairs yielded nothing. What little we did learn reinforces the need for fundamental change. Picture of impotence, unaccountability and inefficiency operating in an ethos of limited ambition. That's a tweet that I'm very proud of. Great authoring there. All right, but let's move it on. Are we done with silent protests? That's one question. Peter, are we done with those? That existed in order to break the embargo of silence or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, the silent protests, obviously there was the one that took place at the start of the Hibs game. That was for 12 minutes, which was silent protests without actually being silent. You know, it was never about a complete silence. But I think certainly the singing didn't take place. I was at the game, and you could tell that first 12 minutes there was a difference in the atmosphere. How successful you think it was, and you'll each be your own judge in that. The plan was then to have a 29-minute silence and then a 32-minute silence at the next two subsequent home games. The meeting being called meant that we postponed those to attend the meeting. As they go in the future, I would never say never to anything, but I can only speak personally here. I think it did a bit, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how effective a 32 or a 29-minute would be. I don't know how hard it would be to actually hold a silence for that length of time. So, as I say, I wouldn't want to say they are completely off the table from now on, but I don't think, personally, they'll be at the top of anybody's agenda in the short term anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, look, fans of Brian, I can imagine, are screaming for him to get a chance to speak, and we'll get to Brian's questions shortly. Before we do, Innes, you have another one to ask before we get there?
Last one for me. Given that the board committed at the meeting to meet the collective again, what is the plan or the point in doing so, given their contempt for the group, arrogance, and general failure to answer any of the questions?
Cormac, do you want to jump in with that answer?
Sorry, Innes, can you just repeat that once more?
Yeah. Given that the board committed to meet the collective or the steering group again, what is the plan or the point in doing so, given their contempt for the group, the arrogance presented at the meeting, and general failure to answer any questions anyway? What's the plan?
Well, a meeting would have to be based on something. That's I suppose the short answer to that. There's no point in continuing a meeting just to talk in circles. So you never close a door, but a meeting needs to be about something.
Absolutely, and but if there's no answers coming back the way, we're going to be stonewalled again. So where do you go from there?
Well, that's where you build a campaign and see what type of meetings take place down the line then.
Yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's again, I suppose it's back to there's no magic wand answer here. This does involve building a campaign, building numbers, and getting our voice heard, getting the messages across, and then they need to actually engage, because that wasn't engagement earlier. That was just as we say, that was a bit of window dressing. But a meeting needs to be about something. If they're serious about future meetings, they need to actually be about something.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise going on somewhere. Anyway, I think it's time for Brian to step forward and ask his question, because we've talked about the silent protest, we've talked about the meeting. What about the way forward, and what other various measures are going to be instituted? Brian, you have a specific question about merchandise?
Yeah, guys, thanks for everything you've done so far. And obviously the silent protest, I don't know if we've done with that, but certainly merchandising boycott. Has anybody within the collective worked out how much that would cost us per game? And has anyone been in touch with Adidas regarding this? So we hate to go back to the money kind of thing, but certainly with a Tory board, so they like money. So has anyone been in touch with Adidas, and do you reckon how much we would lose per game with a boycott of merchandise? I'm certainly not buying any Adidas or anything Celtic related, considering the cost, etc., and run up to Christmas, so it could impact on them. So any of the guys want to answer that one? So
I'm not aware of any sort of work that's been done around loss per game, to be honest with you, Brian, but certainly a boycott is something that has been certainly discussed. And I'm no doubt tomorrow night when the steering group get together again, that'll probably be quite high up in the agenda. Again, I can only talk personally here, but I would certainly be supporting a boycott of not only the official Celtic merchandise, but the wider sponsors, so including Adidas, Dafabet, that sort of stuff. At the original meeting in Grace's in early September, I did raise the issue of a boycott, but I also raised the issue of unintended consequences of that, because I don't think this, as you say, it's a Conservative Tory board who would have no doubt would be quite happy to shut shops and put people out of work if the revenue was not going through. And I think another thing about a boycott, it's very much a personal thing, as I say. So I would like to see a boycott personally, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, when a lot of folk will buy Christmas stuff from the shops and from online. It's a good Christmas present. Ironically, I think one of the things the club do quite well is their annual Christmas adverts. I quite like the adverts. But, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, I think that would have a huge impact in the finances that they get in from the shops and the store. It also gives people that personal feeling that they're contributing and not buying. They're making their point and they're doing their bit. So I would imagine tomorrow night that a boycott of merchandise would be high up in the agenda when we get together again.
Can I also ask either one of the guys, Peter or Cormac, has anyone spoke to Adidas? I mean, I know we have some, and also has any of the ex-players been in touch with the collective? Like, I know Chris Sutton's a big fan of what we're trying to do. Just wondering if there's any kind of figureheads or has anyone been in touch with Adidas, first of all, to make them aware that this is an impending change of business?
Yeah, I'm not aware of direct contact being made with Adidas. And regarding kind of ex-players or that, again, if there's been anyone sort of informally in contact, but I'm not aware of kind of players reaching out to us in a formal way. No, to give you a direct answer to your questions. And regarding kind of, I don't want to preempt any discussion around the boycott. I suppose the only bit I'd add to the earlier question is just that I suppose any and all options remain on the table, and it's just as the time and the discussions evolve and develop, then we'll consider each option as it comes up. So that's all I'd like to add there.
David, you did a piece of work earlier based on fans, etc. How much did you anticipate we would lose from merchandising and revenue based on those figures? I'm doorstepping you and apologise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether or not I'd want to stand them up because simply I was using multiple AI searches based on published financial data. But mid-season, my question to it was a mid-season stance of boycott of food, beverages, etc. Football tops, and it's somewhere between 3 and 6 million. That would be a guesstimate I think any of us could have made, I guess, even if we didn't use some augmented intellect. So it's going to be in that region. And to your point, I think, Brian, there should be contact with sponsors, but not. I don't think you need to threaten, and I don't like threats. It's just about, are you aware? As fans, we purchase, we put our hand in our pocket, we buy their merchandise. So I think it's reasonable for them to be aware of it. But I mean, I'll leave it to the collective to consider what's the best approach and the best way to address these things, and that might just be one of them.
I think if Adidas find that they've got a warehouse full of unsold Celtic kit, then that would probably raise their heckles anyway. It's and just going back to the contacting the football players, I think that's an idea, and again, it's something that we maybe want to consider. I think we need to be careful as who we approach, because some of these football players have got their own vested interest as well. They're involved in the media, and they may still be involved in the club to some extent, or they wish to be involved in the club to some extent at some point in the future. So I think we just need to be careful about who we approach and how they react to that as well. I mean, you've already seen some ex-Celtic people in the media who are looking to get a career in the media come out and say that the board are doing a good job, and and how are we complaining? So it's just something we need to be aware about. But again, it's there's nothing off the table. It's something I'm sure it's something we'll approach at some point and we'll take it from there.
Okay, we need to move the conversation on a bit because we're running out of time here. So yeah, merch, pre and post-match protests, possibly boycotting games and competitions. These are all the things we've heard of. Celtic TV is probably one closer to our hearts because we're remote fans. And unlike a match ticket, which is the only way to watch Celtic in real life, paying for Celtic TV is in fact not the only way to watch Celtic for us. There are various foul means or fair, well, foul means, not fair, for us to watch Celtic. Right, so all these things are mixed in together, but I think it would be a shame if we didn't talk to you guys when we've got you about the big picture here. What's really the ultimate objective? The ultimate objective, simply put, I think, is that Celtic is run in a progressive, ambitious and professional way. That's what we all want to see. But what are the necessary changes needed to make that happen, do you think, Cormac? Does it really need specific people to be out in their ear? Does it need a change of heart from Dermot Desmond? Does it need other shareholders to get together and say the club has not been run according to the way it ought to be? We've missed out on a great opportunity to consolidate ourselves as a Champions League team, etc. What are the changes that really need to be made to get us to where we want to be?
Yeah, so if you have, I suppose, short, middle, and long term, but if you just change the names but don't change the ethos or the structures and strategies, then you're just moving around the deck chairs on the Titanic. I think there does need to be a personnel change. That, I suppose, that brings us firstly onto the corporate governance, where you have people who've been sitting on that board for far too long, beyond gold standard or just basic standards of corporate governance. There's people who've been there too long, so immediately that points to already there being a need to change some bodies there. But if you're not reviewing, and there was talks of some reviews, but it's kind of the board reviewing themselves, it's checking your own homework. So we need to look at changes in approach to corporate governance, and then in terms of the football on the pitch, the approaches to short, medium, and long term in terms of the actual football operations itself. The long term, it comes back. You mentioned Dermot Desmond having a change of heart, or the problems all point in one direction. So it's how achievable. The closer you get along the path, it gets the achievability becomes more and more difficult. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep pushing in that direction. But if on a practical sense, we need to see a change in how the club is being run. We need to see actually the being able to stand over. I was mentioning earlier about how the answers that they did give don't stand up to scrutiny. So we need to arrive at a point where they're able to answer the questions that were put to them and that they do stand up to scrutiny. So again, at risk of repeating myself, but that's coming back to your corporate governance, and that they can, that we have a European record that they can stand over, that our youth system is functioning, is properly functioning. So that's, I suppose, your corporate governance is the overarching. So there's a lot of issues there at that level in terms of how the club has been run. And if you get that house in order, it leads on to, it filters down to the other operations as well.
Yeah, I think I was just going. I mean, Michael Nicholson has spoke about Celtic being a world-class football club, and I think we all know that we're as far from a world-class football club than it's possible to be. And I think it goes back to something I said earlier. I just want Celtic to be the best they can be, and that goes across the board. And I think you mentioned Celtic TV, Gavin. For a lot of folk like yourself, Celtic TV is probably the direct link that you have with Celtic if you're in Vietnam or Malaysia, Australia, United, wherever it is. And Celtic, I was a subscriber to Celtic TV myself. I think I was paying something like £50 a year. And I gave it up in the summer because I don't think, other than watching a couple of pre-season friendlies, I don't think I ever used it because there's just nothing there. And one of Nicholson's comments is about they need to find a better method of communication with fans. Well, what's Celtic TV but the perfect method of communicating with fans? And that's just typically, I think, the way that we see Celtic being run. That something such as Celtic TV is so poor and so low down in their ambitions about what it can be that it's just an absolute. I don't know the sort of usual age range of years, so I'm trying to keep it clean here, what I'm saying, but it's just a load of crap, to be honest with you, and that is just typical. And as Cormac says, it's across the entire football club, from the business side to the football side to the merchandising to the communication. We just need to see better. And we're not asking for world class and everything, because sometimes that just doesn't. You just set yourself up to fail when you start talking about world class basics. We just want it to be the best that we can be, and we're so far away from that at the moment that it's untrue.
In that desire, Peter, are we talking about an audience of one here? And is that going to emerge from the collective as time goes on, that Dermot Desmond becomes much more the focus of the activity?
I think it's interesting, Gav, that we've only mentioned Dermot Desmond towards the end of this. You know, he's the largest shareholder. His influence goes right through that club, and I don't think we're anybody's in any denial that just where he sits in the club, and that's at the very, very top. And as Cormac says, there's no point getting rid of Michael Nicholson just to get somebody, Michael Nicholson light, come in to replace him. Again, I can only speak personally. I would be quite happy to work with Dermot Desmond if he felt he could work with us. I don't have any particular issues. Look, I don't know Dermot Desmond, obviously. He lives in a world that's way above my pay grade, and but he's obviously not a daft man. He's obviously a bright, intelligent guy, and if he's got any sense, he should be watching and listening to what the fans are telling him. So if there's a message to go out to Dermot Desmond, is Dermot, you know, this isn't a fight, this isn't an argument, this is just about us wanting to work with you and be the best that Celtic can be. And you can help deliver that. Just maybe lose your ego a wee bit. You know, it's not about a win and a loss for anybody here. It's about winning for us all. And I think that would be the message to go to Dermot, that you know, we're not wanting to sort of undermine anybody. We just want to work with you and ensure that we can all sort of look at Celtic and be proud of the club and be a sort of club that when we, you know, it's a club that's going to go to our kids and our grandkids, and that's what we should be looking at. You know, the club that we leave, and that's without sounding sort of coming across without something bombastic here. You know, that's where I see myself trying to do here. It's about the club that I want to leave folk that come after us. And the way we're going, it's not a club that any of us would want to sort of leave to any of our kids. It's a club in a mess. It's a club, you know, it's as somebody says, it's not a digital age club. You know, and it's so yeah. Dermot, we're here. You know, quite happy to talk. I'm sure you can get my number if you want to give me.
Cormac, Mahesh is making the case here in the chat quite a lot about how well run Celtic is as a club financially and everything. So do you just want to deal with that quickly before we move on to the last little segment?
Yeah, I think, going back over the years, we always get told about how well run they are based on the records, but it's sort of a case of imagine what we could be. Dare to dream. We're all instead of this aiming for the bottom or settling for mediocre. Imagine what we could be, and we're not coming close to that at the moment.
That's what Peg Leg is saying there. Financial stability is the bare minimum. And of course, you have to call a spade a spade. What's happened in recent times has been the result of an absence of competition. You know, it's been a very serendipitous monopoly that we've had. And we've enjoyed it. It's great winning trophies and all that. But, you know, the opportunity, a generational opportunity has been had by the club to really take massive strides forward.
Can I just elaborate slightly further again on my point of imagining what we could be? There's loads of money in the bank. Imagine how much money would be there if we had qualified for those five in a row Champions Leagues over the seasons. So it's just not settling for mediocre. And we're always in this discussion. You always get told about how many trophies we've won, but you're very true in what you're saying. It is within a very particular context in the domestic game. But looking beyond the domestic game, again, it's just simply not good enough.
Yeah, serendipitous is getting applauded plaudits there from the chat. That's good to see. All right, just before we close then, we've talked a little bit about maybe what we can do as distant fans, and we've started this little thing here among ourselves at a Celtic World, just because we are all over the place, and we're, Celtic do have a worldwide fan base, and we're very aware that the board tries to paint it out as, oh, you're just the Green Brigade or just a little bunch of rabble-rousing locals. But, we can't do much given our geographical spread. But we thought about doing this little thing here. Where is the ambition, we ask? Celtic fans all over the world. And we've started getting together a little series of pictures of people in various parts of the world. These are people who've been on the show regularly. Our American show there's Atlanta. Bangkok CSC, that's David. Hanoi, Vietnam. Perth, Australia. We're expecting Sydney to be coming in shortly. And we get one with the Opera House. We get one with the Colosseum. All these kind of iconic places. That sort of hammers home the message that, it's not just a small band of people in the East End of Glasgow. There's responsibility to a worldwide fan base. And there's our very own Innes, somewhere in Wales.
On the Isle of Anglesey.
Innes, do you want to pronounce that location for us?
Not a hope in hell. So, Llanfair Pylgwyn Goch.
Well, very good. There's a few more syllables, I think, than that, but that's pretty decent. So that's a little something we're doing. I mean, we weren't ready to launch it or anything, but we're just letting you know that because we're having the conversation with you, that that's an idea we had. And if it gains any traction, we'll, approach maybe the Celtic Fans Collective and say, look, we're doing this. We'll have a little video or something to paint the picture.
No, that would be great, Gav. I think that would be really helpful. And as I said earlier on, Kerrydale Street being where it is, if anybody's on that, anybody listening or watching is on that, then they can get in touch with me direct via Kerrydale Street. So hopefully that gives individuals a wee into the steering group, because I'm quite happy to take forward any comments or any suggestions that folk make to me direct. I've sort of made that clear on Kerrydale Street. So that option's always there as well.
And it's funny as well. It's very easy. We fall into the trap of talking as if you're on the outside looking in. But if you're a signatory if you're one of the 420 plus signatories, you are a member of the collective. So yeah, feed your ideas in. That's a really good. I love that idea that you did there. But yeah, don't feel you're on the outside looking in. It's, as I said earlier, there's a part there. There's a part there for everyone, and feed the ideas in. That's brilliant. Okay, great. Well, once we get a few more from the States and those places I was talking about, we'll put a wee video together and then run it by you. It's ideally it's for people who are overseas, and the idea is that we're looking for the ambition everywhere, but no matter where we go, from the Amazon to Borneo, it can't be found. All right. Well, look, gentlemen, we've reached the end of the show. It's been absolutely brilliant having you. On behalf of everyone at the Celtic World, thank you so much for being here. It's been great. No, thanks for inviting us, Gavin. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. Guys, yeah. It's been great. Keep up the Thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining in. Been a bit of lively debate there. As you would expect, there's a range of opinions. Not everyone's on entirely the same page. But David, Brian, Innes, you enjoy this getting to know you session with the Celtic Fans Collective? Fantastic, hugely positive. Thanks for all the hard work. Growing in confidence. Thank you, gents. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the input and your time and dedication too. So thank you. Keep it going. Thanks, guys. Yes. Really appreciate it. Cheers, yes, please do, guys. Okay, on behalf of everyone, this is Monday night show. We're back on Thursday. Until then, is it? Have I got that right? Yeah, yes. Thursday. Yeah. Until then, hail, hail. Hail, hail. Hail, hail.